Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Canadian Management Centre webinar focused on a new book, The Army of Entrepreneurs. My name is John Wright, and I am the President and the Managing Director here at the Canadian Management Centre, and it's my pleasure to welcome you this afternoon. I want to set the stage for today's topic. The flow of the session, I'm going to share with you some research information that will help set the stage. After I'm finished, I'm going to turn over the webinar to Jennifer Prosek, and Jennifer is the author of The Army of Entrepreneurs, and she's going to take you through a great presentation on the story of her organization, what she's learned through it, and the basic concept of the Army of Entrepreneurs. Following Jennifer, you're going to hear from Bernadette Smith. Bernadette will tell you a little bit about what some of the lessons learned from that Army of Entrepreneurs story is as it applies to leadership. And if you're on Twitter, I just want to let you know that there is a hashtag for the event. The hashtag is #CMC, and we do have an employee prize pack today. So if you do want to participate with us on Twitter, that would be great. The more you tweet about today's event and add your comments to the discussion, you will have more chances to win. You should also know that as we go through the session today, we have 4 polling questions for you to participate in, and those will be called out to you as we make our way through. And last, we're certainly interested in hearing questions from you, but if you would just hold those to the end, we'll open up the Q&A chat window, and you can put in your questions at that point in time. If this is your first time joining a webinar at the Canadian Management Centre, I just want to take a moment and tell you a little bit about our company. First and foremost, the Canadian Management Centre is a learning and training company. It's multidisciplined and multimodalities. By multidiscipline, I mean we offer courses and training from everything from project management to communications training to leadership training at all levels of the organization. When I mention multimodalities, that simply means we offer open enrollment public programs, we offer customized on-site training solutions, blended learning delivery, virtual seminars, webcasts, podcasts, and much, much more. You should also know that we're part of a global network, the American Management Association Global Network, and we are part of an 18-country network. And the benefit of that is it gives you access to both global content and global delivery options should your organization need them. And last is the fact that we actually are a not-for-profit organization, but we are one with a mission. And our mission is to build inspired partnerships that prepare the next generation of leaders to thrive in tomorrow's marketplace. Now, as I said on my opening slide, I want to spend a few moments and just give you some background to set the context for the discussion today. Fundamentally, we are talking about employee engagement, and we believe it continues to be a very hot topic. Recently, we had our National Thought Leaders Series in 8 cities in Canada, a total of 9 sessions, and we were able to meet with over 1,000 people in the HR and organizational development space and talk to them about employee engagement. What's really interesting is that it is definitely a hot topic, even though it's certainly been around for the last 10 years of thorough research. What we're finding is that it's a conversation that's definitely back in vogue. We're hearing things like we need a new conversation inside our company because the old conversation of doing more with less is getting tired, and our people are getting tired as well. We've also talked with companies who've said, in my world, I'm doing employee engagement initiatives, I'm measuring employee engagement rates, but for the first time, my scores are actually dropping, and what do I do now? So certainly one indicator that it's a hot topic. There's also some recent data that I want to share with you that also indicates that it's a hot topic. This is from the Blessing White study from last year, and what was really amazing was that they had surveyed over 11,000 respondents globally. And when asked the basic question, assuming you have a choice, that you can either stay with this organization for the next 12 months or leave, on a global basis, only 61% of respondents planned to be with their current organization in 12 months' time. And as you can see on the screen, the news gets worse in North America. If given a choice, only 56% of existing employees would stay with the company that they're with right now. So that is pretty shocking news, and certainly a situation that no one and no organization could be complacent about. Another indicator that employee engagement is a hot topic is that we know that strategically retaining engaged employees is absolutely key to superior company performance. And data from the 2010 Global Engagement Study said that engaged employees actually outperform disengaged employees by 20 to 28%. So if your organization is looking to grow in the near future and is looking to innovate in the near future, you have to be concerned about making sure that you can maintain and retain your engaged employees, because it is truly those individuals that will allow your organization to grow and thrive. So if that kind of information is out there and it's generally understood, then what's the problem? Well, the organizational problem that we focused on comes from the Institute of Corporate Productivity. This is a great organization based in the United States. They've been around for about 30 years, and they are the largest corporate network focused on the practices of high-performance organizations, how to improve and how to sustain high-performance organizations. What I personally love about the research that they do is that they always focus on how workforce improvements drive bottom-line results and impact. And in this particular situation, we decided to focus on one of their publications called Playbook, Building an Engaged Workforce. This particular book has tremendous insights on the issues that are out there around employee engagement and what solutions can be. In the book, they cite 6 key problems that all organizations are failing at. And what I'm going to highlight for you today is just 3 of those 6. Problem number 1 is that employee engagement is certainly seen as important in organizations, yet the majority of workers are not, in fact, highly engaged. The solution for that is to purposefully create a culture of engagement using best practices and messaging. From their study, problem number 3 was that most leaders just aren't well trained to engage employees. In this case, the solution is to put more effort into developing leaders at all levels of the organization so that they acquire good engagement skills. Problem number 4 from the study was that most organizations just don't have well understood strategies for boosting employee engagement levels. The solution for that is to learn from research what strategies actually work and then select the ones that are best suited to your organization. And that can certainly vary by the type of organization, whether it's for-profit, not-for-profit, government, whether it's large or small, and what type of industry that it's in. So these are all great ways of looking at the employee engagement problem and looking at solutions. And at the Canadian Management Centre, we support all of the solutions that are talked about in this report. However, we also think that it's time for some new thinking. And that's why we have been exploring new thinking and new solutions. In the fall, we did a National Thought Leaders Tour, as I mentioned, that went across 8 cities in Canada. It was focused on a brand new publication from October of 2011 called The Enemy of Engagement. And with this book, they focused on a breakthrough thinking concept for employee engagement. Number 1, focus on highly engaged employees, not on your total employee base. Number 2, work with them to identify sources of workplace frustration. And then once you've done that, number 3, enable solutions to solve their frustration problems. That's pretty radical thinking, and as we toured across Canada, we got tremendous feedback. Today, we want to bring another different new lens to looking at the employee engagement issue, and this is through looking at it by creating an entrepreneurial mindset. And we're happy to introduce Jennifer Prosek, the author of The Army of Entrepreneurs. Now, when it comes to entrepreneurial spirit, what are we actually talking about? Well, first and foremost, we're talking about people who have a number of different competencies. The first one is that they have a genuine interest in the success of the organization. Second is that they're focused on customer needs. The third is that they can see possibilities, both for the organization and for themselves. Fourth, there's a willingness on their part to take calculated risks. And number 5, and certainly a results orientation. So with that bit of background, I'm now going to turn it over to our two speakers today. First, I want to introduce Jennifer Prosek. Jennifer is the founder and CEO of CJP Communications based in New York City with offices in London as well. Her company was named an Inc. 5000 fastest growing company. It was recognized as one of the top places to work in PR in the United States. And her new book, published in February of 2011 through our Amacom publishing unit, has gotten rave reviews. After Jennifer finishes speaking, you're going to hear from Bernadette Smith. Bernadette is the Vice President of Talent Development Solutions here at the Canadian Management Centre. Bernadette has been here since 2003, and she leads our talent development practice, which includes all of our content, all of our facilitators, and all of the delivery of that, both to our public programs and to our on-site customized solutions. Bernadette's background has over 15 years of experience leading marketing and brand teams at well-known organizations like Mattel, Telemedia, Bayer Healthcare. And she's also worked on leading household brands like Aspirin, Fisher-Price, Disney, and more. So you'll be hearing from her in a minute. At this point in time, I'm going to turn over the webinar to Jennifer.
Thanks very much, and I'm happy to be here to talk to you a little bit about a philosophy and a model that I credit with building my company literally from 0 to 20 million. And although I'm an entrepreneur building an entrepreneurial enterprise, I recognize many people on the call are in corporate environments or in government. Many of the things I'll talk to you today about in terms of empowering people will be applicable to all of your environments as well. I think we're going to first have a polling question.
It's open right now.
And it's open right now.
So feel free, be forthcoming. Let us know who you are. We'll keep this poll open for about another 30 seconds or so. If you click on the letter, your response, and then click Submit. And this will just give us a feel for who's on the call. Just a quick note, if anybody is having any challenges hearing the audio, if it's cutting in and out and you're on a computer speaker or a computer headset, if you click the phone with the question mark icon in the participants panel, I can grant you access to the teleconference information. Barring that, if that isn't working for you, I suggest that you disconnect and reconnect your computer and try again. So we're just going to keep the poll open for about another 30 seconds or so. We've got a few people that are still inputting their information. Just select the answer that is most appropriate for your employment situation and click Submit. So I'm just going to close it up. It'll close up in about 20 seconds. Please be forthcoming. Let us know who you are. And here we go. I'm just going to show the results right now.
Okay, so we have quite a few people. Well, we've got a pretty even distribution outside of corporate. That's wonderful. We've got some entrepreneurs and self-employed. Okay, so we'll just make sure that it's great to see this because it gives me some guidance as we go through the webinar. So let's get cracking. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, just because it's relevant as I take you through how I made the epiphanies I needed to make to build the army of entrepreneurs. First, we'll start with the bad news. Like a lot of people today in this job market, I graduated in a downturn. There were very few jobs. I wanted a job in a New York City-based public relations firm, and there were none. There were hiring freezes, and although I was pretty good in college about getting myself those internships and work experience, it still didn't get me very far. I couldn't achieve my dream of bright lights, big city. So I took the job I could get in a suburban town in Connecticut, and I started networking. and I met someone who was 15 years older than me who had a great idea for starting a business in public relations. So I decided I would leap into this new venture, even though it looked nothing like what I wanted out of my life at that point. But I thought, like most great entrepreneurs, I would turn lemons into lemonade and look at this as a startup opportunity. Now, of course, I was very disappointed because I was young and single and sitting in suburbia, not exactly what I had in mind. But I knew that an entrepreneurial venture could mean something great for the future. So my promise to myself was that if I could get this company, which wasn't even a company at the time, it was really just an idea, if I could get it closer to what I wanted, what my dream was every year, I would stick with it. And what was that dream? My dream really was to build a financial communications powerhouse that serves the highest profile clients in the world. That's a pretty big dream when you're sitting in suburbia with maybe one client and one partner and 0 employees, but that was the dream. But the dream started out okay. We had a handful of employees a couple years later, and we had clients, so we were starting. But soon we hit the wall. We stagnated, we had not so many rainmakers, and we had sluggish growth. We had overhead, we were all frustrated, and we were starting to be burnt out. My partner and I were sort of working or selling by day and working by night, and the few employees that we had really frustrated us. We felt as if they were a little more clock punching than they needed to be. And we did what a lot of business owners do. We sat around and complained about our employees. And I'll tell you about my epiphany in a moment. First I'll tell you before we get to that only 3% of women-owned firms have revenues of $1 million or more. So this was an uphill battle, both creating a firm and then getting it to be larger than $1 million in revenue. So to go back to my epiphany, my partner and I sat around complaining only for so long, and then I had this thought. I looked myself in the mirror and I said, have I ever taught my employees what they need to know to help me grow this business? Now, in a communications business, you generally hire people with wonderful skills, like great writing skills and great communicating skills, but they don't necessarily have business skills. So it dawned on me that maybe I needed to start teaching them a little bit about the business and a little bit about what was important to us to help us grow our firm. So I asked myself, could I build an army of entrepreneurs? Could I make people more owner-like than employee-like? And could I develop a system or an operational process that would make people this way? Now, Malcolm Gladwell, I wish I read his book sooner, because I would have known that this very brilliant man was espousing something that I was just figuring out on my own, that there is something called the talent myth. We all think we're going to hire silver bullet employees that will grow our companies and be wonderful, but the reality is that the system must become the star, that great organizations and their operational processes are what makes regular employees into phenomenal employees. So we embarked on this mission of making the system the star, and we started to build what I call the Army of Entrepreneurs. So first, before building the Army of Entrepreneurs, we thought about what do we want out of our employee base? We want an inspired and empowered workforce that are clear about their contributions, that act more like owners than employees, and benefit directly from the actions, their own actions to grow our business. And we know that employees, just like us, wanted to be free to propose and explore new ideas. And the best part about our journey was it wasn't going to actually cost us more money to do. We already had our human capital assets in place. You already have your employees in place. The idea is, can you make them more productive? Can you make them more engaged? Can you get them to help you grow your enterprise? And if you can, it will not just help you grow, but it will help you retain and recruit the best in your industry. So the good news about the Army of Entrepreneurs as I wrote this book is I discovered it wasn't just little old CJP that was using this model. There were large companies out there, major corporations who had credited their growth and their success on this model. And Richard Branson is one. He says perhaps the greatest thing about enabled entrepreneurship is that everyone becomes so impressed with what they're doing that they feel like they own their companies. They don't feel like employees working from someone else. They feel like belongers. And I think I might have blown past the polling question. Help me out here.
Here it is here.
All right. So question for the audience. Would you describe your current workplace as entrepreneurial? Yes or no?
I'm really curious to see what the results are with this one. This will be interesting. It doesn't necessarily mean, of course, that maybe your workplace isn't entrepreneurial, but it's what your perception is.
That's right.
So it speaks a lot, I think, to your own engagement where you're working.
And we'll talk about, well, I don't want to lead the witnesses, so we'll let them answer their questions their way. And we'll get to stare at Richard Branson in the meantime.
So we'll keep the poll open for another 30 seconds or so. Please be forthcoming. We have some people that are logging in. You select your answer and you click submit. Let us know what you think. Would you describe your current workplace as entrepreneurial? So let us know what you think. I'm going to close up the poll now. In about 20 seconds, it'll close, and we'll be able to take a look at the results. We'll see what all you folks think.
I'm really curious.
Do you have any guesses, any hypotheses?
I do.
What do you think? What do you think? Will it be mostly yes or mostly no?
I think it'll be mostly no, but we'll see what happens. Yeah.
All right.
So mostly no. And we'll talk about later why this is so impactful, this answer, but it's obviously, I'm actually surprised to see there's quite a bit of yeses, so that's actually very good news on the call. But we'll talk about that dynamic and that spread and how it reflects what the majority of workers are saying, at least in North America. So we've talked about my little story a little bit, how I started to build this army of entrepreneurs. And like I said, little old CJP turned out not to be the only one. There are lots of large companies who employ these methods as well. But what is the toolkit for building the army? So you're deciding we want to bring some of this entrepreneurial vibe to our workplace. What do we need to do? Well, first, it's very important that you literally and figuratively take down the walls. And that means making leadership accessible. That means trying to make your organizations less hierarchical, keeping the doors open so that people can propose ideas, encourage a dialogue and idea flow, and then develop what I call and what others call a nudge, which is really an incentive scheme that aligns an employee's interests with the company's interests. And getting more granular, the first thing that we did that was one of the most impactful things is to teach our employees the business of the business. How does the business run? How does it make money? And how does your job fit into that world in an impactful way? As I said before, the folks that we hire in our communications firm typically don't have the benefit of management education or an MBA. So these are foreign concepts. So we do workshops throughout the year to teach people everything from revenue to expenses, profit margins, receivables, payables, collections, et cetera. And once people understand the business, magical things start to happen. And we'll talk about those magical things as we go along. So teaching the business of the business. Next, it's important to make sure that people understand how to be successful in the enterprise. Okay, now they understand the business of the business, how the organization makes money, what it needs to succeed. Now, what is their clear path to their own success and also to the success of the company? In our firm, we have something that sounds very silly, but it's easy to remember, and it defines what makes you successful at CJP. It's called finder, minder, binder, grinder. A grinder is someone who gets a lot of work done. A binder binds clients to the firm, is a great relationship person. A minder is a great manager of people and also projects, and a finder is a new business development person. If you have all of these 4 things, I always say you're probably me or your partner in our firm. And this path to success should not be expected to be achieved in 1 year. This is a career path. So we rate people on the finder, minder, binder, grinder scale, and everybody knows this even before they take the job, that we are all about the inders, as they're called in our firm. The next thing we've done, and many of these companies who employ the same entrepreneurial mindset do, is they over-communicate. This means sharing as much information as possible, as many times as possible throughout your organization. At ours, we're a bit extreme, but our rule is that you can know anything about our business outside of someone else's salary, anything. How much a client bills, why, what the profit margins are, how we stack up against the industry. Anything you need to know to be more successful, we will tell you. So these are some of the things that we do. We have lots of state of the agency addresses. Every Sunday night I write an internal blog called the J Lowdown to tell everybody what's going on in the business and what's on management's mind. We have staff calls and ad hoc updates. We have social media. There's no excuse in today's transparent society not to over-communicate. And over-communication gives people the same information that owners have to make owner-like decisions. It also cuts down on gossip, misunderstandings, and things that are negative to productivity. So I can't espouse over-communication enough. The next is that entrepreneurial companies focus proactively on recruiting. Now, we believe firmly that any employee can be more entrepreneurial at work. However, it is a lot easier to identify people who are entrepreneurial naturally and bring them into the organization, people who are believers to begin with. So that means a focus on proactive recruiting. We may see 50 people before we spot one person with the entrepreneurial qualities that we're looking for. That means we always have to be out in the market in a proactive way. We have a rule in our firm that we never make a panic hire. A panic hire is someone leaves your company, gives 2 weeks notice, and you rush into acquiring a new employee. That will never bring you the holistic culture that you need to really build an army of entrepreneurs. So proactive recruiting. And then perhaps one of the most powerful things, at least to fuel growth in our firm, was the development of what's called a nudge. And an economist by the name of Richard Thaler came up with this concept, next slide, called the nudge. It's a harmless bit of engineering that attracts people's attention and alters their behavior in a positive way without actually requiring much effort. And what does that mean? It means you're aligning your employees' interests with your own, and they almost don't realize that you've done it. How the heck did you do that? Well, I'm going to start with an example that has nothing to do with your workplace. Maybe it does a little bit. There was a great example in the book called Nudge about the Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. And at the Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, the men's bathrooms were filthy, and they were going to have to spend lots of money to clean them. And then someone had the weird but brilliant idea of painting flies in the urinals at Schiphol Airport. Why would you do that? It turns out that men really like to aim, and all of a sudden, overnight, the Schiphol bathrooms were clean. I just thought that was brilliant in so many ways. But, you know, as a business owner or someone running an enterprise and responsible for revenues and profits, et cetera, how much did that cost to get an unbelievable result? Nothing. And that's why it's such an extreme and silly but fun example. At our firm, we developed something called the Commission for Life. This was our nudge. Now, when we were small and we were trying to grow, this is really one of the things I credit with the quick growth of our organization. So our nudge, Commission for Life, means that we reward 5% of the revenue of a client engagement for the life of that engagement if you're the person who booked the first meeting and introduced our firm to that client. We make it very simple. You do not have to do the presentation or close the deal. So you can be an intern, an entry-level employee, or a very senior executive. But this is the nod to the fact that if we don't get the introduction and we don't get the opportunity or the foot in the door, we'll never get business. So this nudge really was the difference between someone going out of their way to make an introduction to someone important or not. And it doesn't mean that people weren't well-meaning before and didn't want the enterprise to grow, but this just gave them that little extra nudge. And so if you identified a client in year 1 with the firm and you're year 5 with the firm and the client's year 5 with the firm, you've been collecting something for 5 years. And that's been enormously impactful for our firm. Now, commission for life may not be appropriate for your environment, but this is just an example. And I guess the onus is on you to figure out what is the nudge that aligns employees with your management team and your organization. It's important to mention measurement. You wouldn't institute any program without a good measurement system. And the Army of Entrepreneurs model and everything we're talking about today should lead to these sorts of measurements: revenue and profit growth, growth of your sales pipeline potentially, innovation, employee retention, recruiting success, and client satisfaction. I would argue if you actually are successful in pulling off a more entrepreneurial workplace, you should see a rise in all of these things. And let's pick on innovation for a moment. People often get very enamored by our Commission for Life program and put all their focus on the fact that we were able to grow our top-line growth this way. But we've also been able to grow innovation. The Army of Entrepreneurs model has opened up conversation about ideas, and you'll hear later a concept called fast failure. We believe very much that if we're not trying things, new things, on a regular basis and seeing what's successful and what fails, we'll never really get to a great product success, right? So you want that innovation to come from all over the enterprise. So, okay, I've told you a little bit about our story, and then I told you a little bit about what you can actually do to implement some of this. Let's talk about the trends and why the Army of Entrepreneurs is on trend. There's a lot of literature out there that argues that there is a rise of entrepreneurship and a new dream in the workplace of entrepreneurship. In fact, if you look at the next slide, a pollster by the name of Frank Luntz actually asked this question of North Americans: what percentage of workers would rather be an entrepreneur of a small company than a CEO of a Fortune 500 company? Now, this question wasn't asking, are you one of these two? It's, what would you rather perceive yourself to be? How would you rather be thought of? What would you actually aspire to be? And the answers were quite startling on the next page. 80% of people would rather identify themselves with being a small business owner or entrepreneur than being a Fortune 500 CEO. I'm not sure about you, but when I went to college, I wanted to be that Fortune 500 CEO. That's really a flip-flop in data from about 5+ years ago. Frank Luntz, the pollster, argues that one of the reasons that that's happening, what's fueling the shift, next slide, is that the word capitalism and everything that goes with it has become bad. And the word entrepreneurship and everything that goes with it is perceived to be good. Why is that? Because capitalists are seen as people who create short-term wealth, usually for their own personal gain. Entrepreneurs are seen and are people who add value and create long-term value. And yes, they build tremendous success for themselves, but they also create something bigger than themselves. They're also people who don't just work for the money. Typically, they're driven by a larger idea. Just recently in the New York Times, Steve Jobs was quoted as saying, So many young entrepreneurs are focused on an exit strategy, selling their companies for a quick and hefty profit. It's such a small ambition and sad, really, Mr. Jobs said. We should want to build something that lasts. And true entrepreneurs are really driven by building something that lasts. If you look at the next slide, all three of these people, most workers, highly esteemed. These are people who not just generate wealth, but they generate innovation, they build jobs, and all three of these people probably could have stopped working a very long time ago, and they continue to come to work every day to build something greater and something lasting. Whatever your personal sentiments are toward the founder of Facebook, he has certainly changed the way people communicate around the world, probably for the rest of time. And despite some of his negative reputation, I think people would still view that as an awesome contribution to society. So what do employees want? They want to be excited about their job. They want a sense of passion and control in what they do and how they do it. They want the freedom to try and fail again, and they want personal financial success. Doesn't that all add up to what an entrepreneur experiences every day? That's an entrepreneurial experience. So now I'm going to flip-flop back to my own story. When I was asked to write this book, it was right in pretty much the center of the financial crisis. And I was frankly quite paranoid that I was going to write a book about a model that actually didn't work. But the lucky thing was I've had two major tests of this model in my experience. The first was the birth of my daughter. Anyone who has founded and built a company knows that your first baby has been your business. And the idea of taking your hands off the reins for even a second is a very scary notion. So sharing the spotlight with another baby is very, very difficult to grapple with. However, I learned at that moment that my army of entrepreneurs could really take over and run this company when I needed to step out for a little while. So that was my first test. And in 2007, the year my daughter was born, we grew 35%. The next test, of course, was that nasty financial crisis I just talked about. We lost half of our clients or half of the revenue of our company that year, and our army of entrepreneurs rebuilt the company, and we grew. So they replaced half the business and then some the year of the Great Recession, which I think was an incredible testament to the army of entrepreneurs. Next slide. Now I'm going to just share with you something I just thought was a very cool concept. And it's something I think that we all must realize and espouse to our employees. Most people think that entrepreneurs have had great luck, and that's why they've achieved their success. But it turns out that Jim Collins, in his new book, Great by Choice, has studied these outsized successes that he calls 10Xers. He looked at companies in the same industry and wondered, why do some of them have these outsized successes and others don't? He has a concept which I think is brilliant called return on luck. And he says that everyone has the same number of good luck moments and bad luck moments. It's how we treat those good luck and bad luck moments that actually separates the successful from the unsuccessful. So his quote, luck, good and bad, happens to everyone, whether we like it or not. But when we look at 10Xers, we see people who recognize luck and seize it, leaders who grab luck events and make much more of them. The ability to achieve a high ROL at pivotal moments has huge multiplicative effect for 10Xers. And the critical question is, not are you lucky, but do you have a high return on luck? Next slide. Okay, polling question here, I think. Yes. How lucky would you say you've been in your career? Very lucky, lucky, or not very lucky?
I like the way that it's framed, like based on the previous quote, right? Like based on the previous quote, it kind of changes the way somebody might look at events in their career and how it has, like how luck has played a part, or non-luck.
Or non-luck. And in a moment, I'll take you through what I call my good luck moments and bad luck moments. And I hope that it'll be interesting. You should think about your own careers through the frame of good luck moments and bad luck moments. Did you max out the great luck moments, and were you able to turn around the bad luck moments? That's really what distinguished, at least in this book, the highly successful from the moderately successful.
Capitalizing on those opportunities, right?
Yeah.
So the poll's open for about another 30 seconds or so. Let us know what you think. Select your answer and click submit. Let us know if you feel lucky.
Isn't that a fair? Are you feeling lucky? Is that no, Clint Eastwood or something?
It is. Are you feeling lucky, punk?
Punk. Should have added that.
Feeling lucky, punk?
You know, there's another book as well that's out there. It's called Luck Favors the Brave. And I think that's part and parcel of how you get to return on luck. Sometimes you just need to be brave.
Absolutely. I think maxing out a good luck moment is a lot about courage, because there's risk involved, right?
So I'm just going to close up the poll in about another 15 seconds. Please be forthcoming. Let us know if you feel lucky.
Punk.
Punk. This is good. I like the responses to this. Nobody else can see it. I can see what everybody's answering. So I'll share that with you right now.
All right. That's optimistic. Now, you would think, now we didn't ask about your satisfaction. We might have some highly satisfied people on the phone, which is great. So, again, looking at this lens in my own life, and you've learned a little bit about my life now that we've been on the call, I looked at my bad luck moments. You know, I graduated in that downturn. I had that no jobs available that I wanted. I give myself a big check for turning around a bad luck moment into a good luck moment on that one. Like I said, we had slow growth and burnout and hitting the wall early and starting our company. That was a bad luck moment, but the good luck moment that came out of it was discovering the army of entrepreneurs. The Great Recession, again, what a bad luck moment. Anyone running a business in the last few years has hit kind of a bad luck, part of the economic cycle, but we were able to test our firm, and I think our resolve, it's funny, now that we've made it through that, I feel like we can make it through anything, so I would say that turned into a good luck moment. So, again, to get into the success mantra, so I would encourage you to look through your own life through the good luck and bad luck lens. It's very easy. It's very interesting. But also to take that message to the people that you manage and talking to them about how a bad luck moment can be a good luck moment, even that is highly empowering. So just to finish up on the success mantras, I just want to leave you with a few more things that have been incredibly powerful for me in running my business, but also empowering my employees and getting them to really feel good about working on this mission with me. Number one, it shouldn't feel like a job. Now, that's a little extreme. Most workers do know it's a job and feel like it's a job, but anything you can do to make it not feel like a job. Remember, entrepreneurs work hard because they feel like they're doing something bigger than a job. The second one, don't dwell, solve, has been a big one at our firm and in my life. Teaching people not to spend their time, precious energy on dwelling, but put it all into solving has made magic in our organization, and it's very entrepreneurial thinking. Just ask. You'd be surprised how afraid people are to ask for things. And when you ask for things, you are generally surprised at how many times somebody says yes. Leverage your humanity. I'm constantly frustrated in the world of work that so much of the humanity has been sucked out of it. If you can add humanity into the workplace or into the group that you manage, people will reward you with retention. Don't be a black and white thinker. Entrepreneurs never think black and white. They think of all the ways to get from point A to point B, and there are usually many of them. Adopt a fast failure model. We talked about that. Try many things and encourage people to try many things till they find something successful. And then when you find that one success, max it out. 100-day plans, we didn't talk too much about, but I'm a big fan of 100-day plans, short cycle plans that keep people focused. And then again, one little last piece of advice, don't be afraid to ask your team to help you build the business. Just that one step in the right direction will get you off to starting your own army of entrepreneurs.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing your story and experience. It was wonderful to hear how you built a successful business on your ability to develop a highly engaged workforce. What I'd like to do is spend a few minutes to describe the role of a leader in building engagement. But before I do that, I just want to remind the attendees that we're entering into the Q&A section of our webinar. And you're welcome to include your questions or submit your questions. If you look to the bottom right area of your screen, there is a chat panel that you can submit your questions. So what we'll do today, we'll try and answer as many questions as possible. In terms of role of a leader, Jennifer, your book was inspiring in that you walked us through your trials and tribulations as a leader in creating a highly engaged workforce. What you experienced is very much in line with what we do here at CMC. Research has shown time and time again that leaders have the biggest impact in developing a highly engaged workforce in many organizations. Here at CMC, our core focus is building the next generation of leaders, and many of our programs are actually focused on developing those skills necessary in leaders to create high-performing teams. Like a leader should set the direction for their employees. This is really about establishing a vision not only for your team but for your organization. And this really helps focus your employees on what they need to achieve. As you mentioned, facilitating an entrepreneurial spirit is important, and creating that owner's mindset really helps empower employees and connect them to your business. They're motivated to make a positive contribution, and this can be accomplished not only in teams but for the organization too. Leaders empower their employees. This starts with trust. But once employees understand what direction they're heading, they will act in the best interests of not only their teams, the organization, but most importantly, your customers. Leaders leverage the talent on their team. And this kind of connects back to what you said earlier, Jennifer, in terms of understanding what your employees want. It's important that leaders identify and capitalize strengths of their employees and their organizations, ensure they're in the right roles, and remove any barriers that they can do so that they can do their best work. Leaders inspire leadership at all levels, and you've demonstrated that brilliantly in what you've done with your organization. You don't stand alone as a leader. You tap into, the ingenuity of your employees. You're transparent. You focus them on the issues of your business, and then tap into that ingenuity to come up with those creative solutions to what you're facing and achieve positive outcomes. Recognizing employee contributions is important. This is the nudge that you're talking about, and this nudge may look different in different organizations, and even with individual employees. So it's up to the leader, as you said, to figure out what matters most to your employees.
Absolutely.
Next slide. Jennifer, as you shared with us the success of your Commission for Life strategy in your organization, seem to work effectively for you. But there are other non-monetary ways of driving engagement and providing a nudge that are available. This quote sums it up nicely, and this is a quote from a recent Black and White study. And it says, engaged employees stay for what they give, disengaged employees stay for what they get. Engagement really is about tapping into the potential of your employees and enabling them to make a contribution. Next slide. Okay. So there is a lot of activity on our chat panel. So Jennifer, we're going to have to answer some questions.
Okay.
All right.
Let it rip.
So I'm going to start with the first one. What suggestions do you have to help influence senior leaders to buy into the idea of creating an entrepreneurial spirit in a corporate environment?
Well, typically speaking, the good news about a corporate environment is you have more data, meaning corporations are very good about having employee satisfaction surveys, knowing their turnover rates, et cetera. So I think corporate executives understand that they need to make improvements if they have high turnover because that affects the bottom line or anything else. So I think by bringing them the data and bringing them real solutions to move their numbers is the way to approach a corporate executive. So I would say get your hands on that data, analyze the data, and come up with, I don't like the fear factor, but it motivates people, come up with the worst performing metric that there is in the corporation and figure out how something in the army of entrepreneurs can change that number. Because my guess is that number has a bottom line impact, and any conversation I have with an executive when I'm trying to get them to do something, I very keenly illustrate what that bottom line improvement and the impact of the bottom line is going to be. So always just keep in mind that don't make it soft, make it hard, because as much as people think these are soft subjects, these are very hard subjects.
Okay, that's great. Can you provide a perspective on the challenges of creating an owner mindset in a multi-generational workforce, especially where millennials are concerned?
Sure. There's so much talk about the millennials. One thing I will say is the millennials love entrepreneurial flat organizations. So if you can actually pull off this culture and environment, you are becoming incredibly attractive to millennials, and you will have a huge recruiting advantage. The challenge, of course, with the millennials is they want to move so fast and they want so much responsibility so quickly that the onus will be on you to keep them engaged. And that's a very different kind of mindset than your Gen Xers or your baby boomers. I think that the good news about the Xers and the baby boomers is they get on board. If they can believe, they get on board quickly because they were taught to do so. It's a work environment. They believe that they have an obligation to at least try to get on board with things. Your millennials will cause the biggest trouble, but they could also have the greatest impact because they are naturally the most entrepreneurial, the most risk-taking. They do over-communicate. They use transparent tools. So if you can harness that energy, you can have a lot of success with it. But, you know, that will be the greatest challenge of all the generations.
That's great. There's another question from one of our attendees in sharing business information.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you described to us that you have an environment of transparency.
Yes.
Is there a risk to people taking this information and releasing it to competitors?
Sure. I mean, there's a risk, you know, the saying high risk, high reward. Certainly there's a risk to almost anything in life. We've sort of decided that the risk of not over-communicating and all the benefits it gives is a bigger risk than the risk of information getting out into the world. Of course, you know, you have to be careful with proprietary information. Like we have proprietary information about clients that we would not, you know, release to the whole organization, right, because that's legal. But anything that we can, within reason, give an employee to help them make better decisions, we do. And we think that that's not very risky behavior at all.
Oh, thank you very much, Jennifer. It's amazing how quickly an hour can go by.
Yes, it is.
So we've run out of time for answering questions, but we'll be recording the questions along with responses on our website, along with a recording of this webinar. I'm going to hand things over back to John Wright to wrap things up today.
Thanks, Bernadette. And thanks very much, Jennifer. Just a couple of things as we wrap up. If you have been using our hashtag CMC event Twitter handle, you've got a little bit more time to do it, till about 2:30 today. The more you tweet, the more you have chances to win our employee engagement prize pack. Something else you should know, we actually did a live event here this morning at the Canadian Management Center in Toronto, and we videotaped the entire session with myself and with Jennifer, and we're putting that together, and it will be edited and then posted up to our YouTube channel in about a week to 2 weeks' time. So if you'd like to get a little bit more detail on some of the concepts that Jennifer talked about today, you can take a look at that recording on our YouTube channel, and you'll certainly get some more information there. The other thing I just want to bring your attention to is if the whole topic of employee engagement is something that is highly relevant to you and you're looking for more information, just to let you know, we have a new CMC catalog that's going to be out in the spring. And in the last one that we put out, which was in the fall, we focused on employee engagement practices, and there's a front section with articles and tips for you. The one that we are working on right now that will be published in the spring is taking it a step further, and the theming behind that catalog is employee engagement done right. And with that notion, what we've done is contacted some of the companies that ranked in the top 50 best employers in Canada. And we've actually had interviews with 8 of those companies, and we are going to profile some of their thoughts and some of their ideas on how they engage their workforces to reach that coveted top 50 in Canada. So I ask you to look for that. You can look for it in your mailbox at work. We'll certainly keep track of it on our website. You could request a digital version of that catalog when it's out. So thanks for your time today. We really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us, learn a little bit about Jennifer's story in the Army of Entrepreneurs, and I wish you a great day and great leadership. Thank you.